Hi there, and welcome to this presentation on how to grow a small to mid-sized toy and game company. My name's Steve Rees, that's me in the picture, the perfect face for radio, as I've been told many times. So I founded Kids Brand Insight, which is our company, back in 2011. My background was in Hasbro and in other companies in the toy and game business. Kids Brand Insight itself is a leading consultancy to toy companies around the world. We focus primarily on general toy business consultancy, whatever that entails, and sourcing. Primarily, we're helping people to grow. We've been doing that since the start. We've delivered easily tens of millions of dollars in sales growth and or cost savings for toy and game companies around the world. We've set up new distribution into at least 55 countries. We've never really counted, but it's at least 55 countries. We've set up 2 new businesses in our time, from 0 to 50 million in 3 years and 0 to 5 million in 4 years. And we have 2 main parts of our vision. One is to deliver incremental revenue to our clients of $100 million or more by 2030, which we're well on the way to doing. And number 2, to deliver $10 million plus of profitability improvements by the same time period. You'll see down the left here our logos. So Kids Brand Insight is the consultancy company. Toyco Growth Booster is our consultancy service we mostly use with small to medium-sized toy companies, and I'll tell you more about that shortly. And Toy Team India is our venture helping toy and game companies find manufacturing out of India. So here's our areas of expertise, just to hopefully show that we may be worth listening to in this presentation. So capabilities, basically helping toy and game companies to grow is the primary focus. Specifically, we help people to grow their export sales, which is often an area of struggle for a lot of businesses in our industry. We help people to develop brands that can be sold for large amounts. Some of the brands we've worked on have sold for in excess of 50 or 60 million US dollars. We help with marketing planning and execution. We help with sourcing, and we can help with reviewing products and awards. Geography as well, although we're based in the UK, and therefore you might think our kind of priority focus is the UK or Europe. It's actually global, so probably 95% of our clients are outside the UK, and probably about 70% of them are outside of Europe. Probably more likely we help people in either North America or Asia to find distribution into Europe or into North America. Deliverables. So basically, we normally start with the strategic side of things. So making sure that a company is on the right track strategically, making sure they actually have a strategy. Because often in this industry, we're kind of so caught up making fun products and cool products. Sometimes the kind of the more blue chip disciplines haven't always been applied. Then we look at distribution plans. What's the best way to approach particular markets? It's not always the same. Developing brand plans, because brands in the end in this business are worth money. Helping look at reviews and awards. Making introductions on a more practical note for export sales. It takes a long time to sell in the toy business normally. It's like an annual selling cycle, and we don't always work with clients for that long, but what we can do is start that process with a bit of a blast for people, which we do often. But also general facilitation. If people just want to find particular suppliers or types of customers in the toy business, we can normally help them find the right people to talk to. And we can also help people solve problems, which we spend a lot of time doing. Most commonly, people come to us and say, hey, help us sell more. Often it's these other factors which actually contribute towards them being able to sell more. It's not just a case of, they maybe think their sales team's underperforming. They just need a bit more structure to their approach quite often. So yeah, that's our areas of expertise. So onto the meat of this presentation and kind of looking at how people can grow small to mid-sized toy businesses or board games businesses. I guess we'll start with the hurdles. What stops people just achieving huge success instantly. So we've split this into 2 internal factors and external factors. Internally, normally it's resourcing versus the potential opportunities, because obviously a company just starting out or relatively immature, which in the toy industry means like under 3 or 4 years old probably resourcing is an issue. You can't always chase all the opportunities because you don't have the resources. Focus therefore becomes an issue. You can't do everything, and it takes some time to build up the reliable business to allow you to build up the resources. Often there are knowledge gaps. People tend to establish themselves in one market and have quite good knowledge, but then outside of that market they'll have less knowledge, or outside of their chosen few customers they'll have less knowledge, and often they have contact or network or customer relationship gaps. Externally, one of the things we always repeat, probably the thing that we tell clients the most, is that there is a huge overload of products for retailers, distributors and consumers to buy. This is an industry product driven, thousands, tens of thousands, maybe even hundreds of thousands of new toys every year. Definitely thousands and thousands, if not 10,000 plus new board games every year. So there's heavy competition, and it's hard to get the breaks and to cut through all that when you're kind of starting from a small base. And it just genuinely takes time to grow sales networks and distribution. That is how the industry works. So typically 3 to 5 years to set up distribution in one market. If you're trying to do it yourselves directly, that's if you have good sales guys, if you have good products, and if what you have is attractive. If it's not, obviously it's going to take a lot longer or might not happen, but it does take time, and people often underestimate that. Pitfalls. There are a number of pitfalls that we see a lot in terms of growing a business in this industry. I think distraction would be the first one. So I'm going to presume that you know what the 80-20 rule is, but very quickly for those who don't, it's effectively that 80% of your business will come from 20% of customers, 80% of your problems will come from 20% of customers, and it applies across nearly every feature of business. So people always understand this rule because it's very straightforward, but they normally fail to apply it very well. So at this point, we've worked with hundreds of growing toy companies. We've seen lots and lots of people. We've seen people start and fail quickly. We've seen people start and fail over a long time. We've seen people build up a reasonable niche business, and we've seen some people start and build billion-dollar companies. The biggest hampering factor for all these companies we see repeatedly is distraction caused by chasing some kind of small sales in small markets because opportunity presents itself. Okay, so when we start to work with people, maybe around a toy fair, say we'll set up some meetings with them for people from the big markets, and they'll almost be too busy to meet with those guys because they're too busy with people from Lebanon or Greece, Lithuania. These are the examples I've used, and it, by the way, it's no disrespect to those companies or those toy markets. They're just a lot smaller. The challenge is every new country has some bureaucracy, some product needs, sometimes variations in quality certification and testing. Everything sucks up time and therefore opportunity cost. So I guess the summary point here is: would you rather sell one container to Lebanon or 100 to the USA? And the thing is, those guys from the smaller markets will probably be a bit keener than the guys in the bigger markets because everyone's trying to sell into the big markets. And a bit like the way I've laid this out, not everyone can be bothered with or looks at smaller markets. But in the end, you have to look at what is going to allow you to use your resources best to build the biggest business and the most stable business. And really, it comes down to that. If you have 10 customers who take up all your time and order a container a year each, or you have one in the US that orders 100, which would you rather have? Over to number 2. So the second pitfall is basically betting too heavy on one product. This is something we've seen time and time again. If you have a one product company, you are so liable to, effectively it's just risk. Basically, it's poor risk management. Plenty of companies have gone bust by betting too big, putting everything on the line for one product launch, basically, or one product line, one brand. This is both actually at the point of launch, but also at the point of having an established success. From the launch perspective, more new products fail than work by a long shot. There's no toy or game that's so strong also that continued ongoing success is guaranteed. You have to keep working at it. You have to keep ahead of the competition. Sometimes cultural reasons can stop a product being as effective. Sometimes it's just a life cycle and the product dies away. So if all you have to rely on is that product or that brand, then suddenly you've got nothing underpinning the business. So in the end, toy companies that are successful recognise this and they manage the misses and the downside as much as they milk the hits. And as soon as they have a hit, they try and find another hit, or at least a portfolio of kind of steady performers to manage out the risk of any one thing accounting for too much. Leading on from that, kind of directly linked, is too few eggs in too few baskets. So it can be tempting to just keep doing the same old thing, but generally once you've got an established business by way of a product or brand, often it's a good thing to diversify that risk. Now, it doesn't mean just go over and do everything in kind of a scattered way. It doesn't mean that at all, but what it does mean is, you need to keep building foundations of a business. So, if anything happens, if you have one customer who is the most important to you, or maybe a brand license, and it goes away, maybe the customer goes out of business. Let's think about Toys R Us for a minute. Plenty of companies that are affected badly, or a license is given to another party and your rights aren't extended. It's really very risky. So too few eggs in too few baskets is not a good thing. Also, number 4, especially when a company's growing, they don't have often large cash buffer, and mistakes can really set you back. If it's an annual selling cycle and you have a really disastrous year which eats up all your cash, your ability to go into the next sales cycle and then the cycle after that may be inhibited. So you really need to make sure that as much as possible you avoid costly mistakes. And so number 1, overstocking. So inventory will literally kill a toy company. My saying is always, it's far easier to order the stock than it is to sell it. Never have an optimist as the person signing off on stock orders. Being an optimist myself, this is always a lesson I've had to learn the hard way. But if you're out of stock, it means there's demand, and it means that people are likely to reorder, and maybe customers are likely to want, because it's sort of something not that many people have got to enjoy or experience. We all want to get this perfect, but you never do. So if you're going to err on any side, err on the side of being understocked, not overstocked. Underperforming staff is another costly mistake. In a smaller company, those first few hires are the most important by far. And if you get a poor hire, then it can set your company back by years, because if you miss one selling cycle, you don't get the progress, and then you don't get the incremental progress on top of that progress. So be really careful with the first few hires of staff. And then I guess the other thing is expecting quick progress. I've said several times already, the annual selling cycle, you're only going to make so much progress each year. It's just the way it works. Maybe you'll add another 1 or 2 customers each year, another 1 or 2 brands that perform and can stay in the market each year, if you're lucky. And there are some ways to accelerate this, but even with experienced people and good products, it is going to take 3 to 5 years to grow distribution. I've put global here. It's unlikely you're actually going to get full global distribution in 3 to 5 years, but some semblance of kind of geographic spread, I guess, would be more accurate. So, running a toy company for growth. This is the simplest way I can find to explain the cycle of the toy and game business. So, presuming a fall winter launch or an autumn winter launch, depending which market you're in. So we're going to start with research and product development. Now, it depends on the company. A major corporate company like a Hasbro, Mattel, Lego are working much further in advance sometimes. But for a kind of typical small to mid-sized company, this is how the cycle would typically work. Research and product development in May and September. You start to sell it into retailers in October, in various places and various shows, previews. Then through January, February, we normally have the toy trade shows, and then the selling cycle is largely finished roughly around March. Some people, especially like mass market, have finished a lot earlier than that. Some people finish a lot later than that. Some markets work later, some work earlier, etc. But basically, as a rough rule, the selling cycle is October to March. Okay, so then you're going to go into manufacturing. You get your purchase orders and your listings from your customers. You go into manufacturing, QA, testing, certification and shipping, and that would normally be between around April to August. A launch in retail, it depends by market again. Like primarily, really, it's going to be launching in retail around September, really. But in the UK, for instance, Argos product traditionally has to be in stock earlier because of the catalogue. This catalogue is printed in a volume of about 20 million, and if you don't have products in stock at the start of the catalogue date, then you'll either be fined or won't be re-invited back into the catalogue. Some places really they don't even take stock until October, so it does vary. But again, June September is a rough guide. Retail sales and consumer marketing will come in normally October, December, and then evaluation and analysis is ongoing, feeding into the next round of the cycle. Now, obviously, if you look at this, you're running 2 cycles concurrently, so you kind of might be doing the research and product development side and the selling side as you do the latter parts of the last cycle. This is just how it works. And this doesn't really change that much. Okay, you can break the cycle. Sometimes you can introduce a product late. Sometimes it takes longer because it's got technology. But roughly this is the cycle. And on an ongoing basis, it's difficult to break this cycle. So effectively then, you just have to manage this cycle and the process and each element of this process efficiently and effectively. That is really what is going to define whether a company is successful or not. So if we look at these areas in turn, starting with research and product development. Okay, so classic challenges are wasted development because a product doesn't get to market or is inefficient in its development. The development leads to the product launching but not working, and oftentimes there's a lack of resources, especially when a company's in its kind of infancy. Common mistakes are a lack of consumer insights. It drives me crazy how few companies in this business actually test their products with a target consumer, which is normally kids. Children are very different to adults. A classic thing we see, we've conducted more than 1,200 focus groups with children and parents on toys and games. For instance, the size of a child's hand is probably half the size of an adult's hand or smaller, but most toys are designed by people in their 20s or 30s who maybe don't have kids or don't spend that much time with kids. So quite often we'll find that something is designed for usage by a hand that's far bigger than a child's hand. This is just one example. And also a lack of formal product kind of concept or development review can cause some big problems. Kind of product just limps along and never really gets properly challenged and can end up in the market before it's really ready or without being ready or truly thought through. The toy industry does tend to have a kind of a throw stuff at the wall and see what sticks approach, which is not ideal. It's very wasteful. So solutions can be having more formal product development sign-offs and putting in more consumer insights and trend analysis at the start and throughout to make sure that you have a product that's likely to sell. On the selling part of the process, okay, so challenges, commonly it's just gaps. So gaps in distribution, gaps in contact networks, especially at the start, a lack of what we would call clout or kind of importance with customers, so it's hard to get them to pay attention. And risk management. Common mistakes, like I said earlier, focusing on smaller, easier opportunities over bigger, harder ones. It takes time to break into some markets, it takes time to break into some retailers, but that's really where the volume and therefore the money is at. Oftentimes people use the wrong sales strategy or route to market. There's a number of ways to get to market. There's a spectrum from hands-off, risk averse through to very hands-on, full risk, kind of full benefits. And whichever one of those suits you will depend partly on your approach, your risk appetite, your management style, but also the market, the country that you're trying to enter. There are different solutions that tend to work better depending on the country as well. Solutions, having a good sales strategy and also getting a kind of a step up in terms of the sales introductions. On the production side, manufacturing side, challenges we often see ongoing cost inflation, lack of supply chain diversification. Historically, the toy industry has been very focused on the Chinese toy manufacturing hub just over the border from Hong Kong. This caused some issues in terms of diversifying risk. Thankfully, China has been a very reliable source, but there are some things happening which might make that less dependable going forward, which is probably outside the scope of this presentation. But also lack of management resources. We see companies sometimes turning over 100 million $200 million, and they'll have one sourcing manager who's not really sourcing. They're just sitting in a room writing purchase orders to factories that they maybe visit once a year or once every other year. So bearing in mind, manufacturing accounts for around a third of total turnover. It's the biggest cost area of all in this business. It's crazy how little effort is put into managing it efficiently in our opinion and our experience. So yeah, you tend to end up with inefficient supply management, lack of risk diversification, overspending for definite, and also using factories which don't fit, sometimes because of kind of historical precedents. We've used them before, but economies change, factories change, sometimes they grow, sometimes they want bigger customers, and you may have started as a big customer, but now maybe you're not a big customer anymore, and you're not getting the service or the pricing you should be, but you fail to recognize it through kind of inertia. Solutions are taking a more strategic approach at diversifying and looking at some new factories. Okay, there's work involved, and it's not the most glamorous side, but it's like if you want to save money off anywhere, if you save 10% off 33, well, a third of your turnover, like you've saved 3% of your turnover in cost. There's no other part of your business apart from driving more top line sales that can do that kind of impact to your bottom line. So that's production. On the launching retail, so challenges, things like trying to shout above the kind of the peak season marketing noise. A lot of money gets spent in October, November, December by some big companies with some big budgets. So to try and stand out, even for those guys, is difficult. And if you don't have those kind of budgets, it's much harder. So getting reach with limited budget and impact is challenging. But also even picking from all the media options you have nowadays, there's so many ways you can communicate with people. And so oftentimes those challenges lead to these common mistakes: wasting money or not doing enough. And one thing that's guaranteed is if you just go, well, it's too hard marketing, we'll just sell, your product's not as likely to sell off the shelf, therefore you will sell a lot less, your customers will be less happy. So you have to work at this normally, but also you don't want to waste money. And solutions, again, it comes back down to proper strategic planning and trying to be innovative and kind of guerrilla style with your executions. The evaluation and analysis phase, this is the one that gets the least time, energy, and fewest companies actually properly look at this, in my experience. Challenges, by the time we've got the sales results, we're already so deep into the next cycle without much time or resources to change them that sometimes we don't get the time to analyze them before getting retail commitment, which means we kind of almost need to launch by that point because retail's depending on it and our sales budget's depending on it. This is just the reality of the business we have to manage. But you do still have to do evaluation and analysis. Sometimes it might identify that your product needs tweaking. Sometimes it might identify your marketing was off, or that the consumer's not quite, target is not quite who you thought it was. Sometimes it shows you that a product's potentially got more potential. Instead of being like a general range item, it might be like a potential hit item, or vice versa. So yeah, solutions are assigning some resources and management time, and I guess we would say this, but getting some expert help from outside the company to take the time to do this if you don't have the time. So that's the process, and that's the kind of issues that most small and medium-sized toy and game companies are dealing with. The next section, I guess, frankly, it's a bit more of an explanation of how we actually help our clients manage these parts of the cycle. So one of the primary ways is the service we have, consultancy service called the Toyco Growth Booster, which is a bit of a mouthful, but basically it's about helping toy companies grow. It also applies to board games, but board games co-growth booster was even longer, so we just left it at toy. So yes, there are 10 key features of this. So it's tried and tested. We've done this so many times at this point, but always there's a custom bespoke solution. And what tends to happen is, there's a lot of different categories and subcategories of toys in a lot of different countries out there, and a lot of different business models. So we aren't necessarily experts in every detail of your business, but what we do have is an overriding approach of what will work and ways to find out the detail if we don't know them. So the solution is always bespoke to the business. We start with reviewing the objectives and the plan to reach the objectives. We either challenge your strategic plan or help you create one. We help you to create a distribution plan. Sometimes you're on the right track, but there's some extra things we can suggest. Sometimes you're not on the right track, and we will try and help you understand why. If you disagree with this, which does happen sometimes, okay, we understand that, then we'll move on. But at the very least, we'll tell you where we think you can change your approach. We'll do consumer playtesting research with children and parents on your products. We've never, in 1,200 plus focus groups, we've never actually done a focus group and not learned something, which actually tells you quite a lot about just how much there is to learn about, children, parents, and how they interact with products. Sales, like we said earlier, oftentimes people come to us for number 6, primarily sales. Oftentimes it's 1 to 5, which actually allows us to help them sell more in the end. So, but when we do move on to the sales side, we tend to make introductions. We know hundreds of toy companies and thousands of toy people around the world. And if we don't know exactly the right company, we'll normally have people we can ask and resources we can use to find out who they would be. So we normally describe it as a bit of a kind of a quick start, in the sense that, oftentimes we don't work with clients for years on end, and it can take time to build sales. But we'll basically give you a step up and a fast forward, effectively. And we have our own product review and award process, number 7. Advice and consultancy, sometimes it's just not having the depth of experience and knowledge that holds you back. And, we absolutely don't claim to know everything, but between us, we've been in this business for 20 plus years. We know a lot of people we can ask if we don't know. We know a lot of places to find information and resources. So sometimes if it's information or knowledge that's holding you back, we'll help fill those gaps for you. Marketing facilitation, from introductions to key trade press publications across the world through to developing marketing plans and executions, we do that as well. And we allow people to access our database, which has got, actually at last count, more than 4,800 toy companies. So there you go, we're always adding new companies. So it works throughout the cycle, the Toyco Growth Booster. So research and product development, we help to do the product portfolio analysis, we do the consumer playtesting with kids, we help with product development process reviews, which is often an under subscribed but a very, very highly valued outcome of our processes. Selling wise, we help the distribution plan, export sales introductions, the product sales sheet. This is such a fundamental part of actually selling products. Sometimes people will be missing basic information. Sometimes they're describing things that are kind of features, but not necessarily showing why it's a good thing. And often, actually most often, they fail to show why this product is better or different to the massive competition that's out there. So we help with that. On the manufacturing side, we help with manufacturing consultancy. We help toy companies find factories. We actually help some factories enter into new categories or recruit new customers. Primarily, we're aiming to either help factories find new customers or to help toy companies and games companies save money and find reliable supply. So not the most exciting part of what we do, but we save customers millions of dollars every year. Launching retail, so we'll basically help to understand and interact with the distributors. We'll help with relationship management, and we'll help to analyze the sales. Sales and consumer marketing, we will help with the consumer marketing planning and execution, and then evaluation analysis. We come kind of full cycle and start again with strategic plan planning, portfolio analysis, and sales analysis. So the process works at any point in the year. Just in terms of who we've worked with, so starting with startups, we've worked with dozens, maybe God knows at this point, but at least several dozen startups, and they often have many of the same challenges, which is not quite knowing where to start, looking for that first break. So we have some ways of helping them with those things. We very often work with small established toy companies. Maybe they have a good niche business in one market or two markets, so we help them to go beyond that. We work with some mid-sized companies who tend to have the next level of challenges, which are kind of inefficiencies and starting to have to look at process management and the next levels of growth and how to diversify beyond the first success they've enjoyed. We work with outsiders to the toy business commonly, which has often been very entertaining. We've worked with some massive FMCG companies. We've worked with the biggest toy companies, and probably at this point in time we've worked in some shape or form with 7 out of 10 of the world's biggest toy companies. But it all feeds back into basically, helping toy companies to grow. And in the end, a $5 billion toy company may have different needs to a startup. But in the end, we have products and processes which can normally help throughout this cycle. Just a few examples of the projects we've worked on with the Toyco Growth Booster. Example 1, so we helped quite a niche high-end hobby product set up a North American sales rep network. North America is the biggest commercial opportunity in effectively 3 markets, primarily 1. For instance, though, people often ignore Canada, which is relatively easy to access and is a multi-billion-dollar market in itself own right, with a different retail setup to the USA. So that's one way we help. Example 2, we guided a very large FMCG company on developing and successfully launching a massive global toy promotion, and this was using more blue chip strategic planning disciplines, but also helping them to understand the toy industry and the toy business and how that works. Back down to the bottom, example 3, an Asian media brand came to us wanting help to sell a range of licensed items internationally, so we helped them to set up North American distribution. Example 4, a Japanese toy company came to us struggling to place a lot of their products in Europe, and we work with them over a number of years to help them grow that distribution. So that's just a kind of a fairly typical array of projects that we've worked on. So the Toyco Growth Booster is packaged. That's the way it works. There are 3 levels of this. I'll go through this quickly because all the details will be here on our website. But basically, we start with a kickoff call. We understand more about the business and your objectives. We have Q&A sessions between us and your team. And we come through with a growth strategy report, including a distribution plan, gap analysis, and looking at incremental opportunity for your business. Normally, when we do this, we're trying to find kind of the lowest hanging fruit that we can instantly give you a payback on working with us. It's not always possible. Sometimes some products or some companies, either they already have really good distribution or full product ranges. Sometimes, though, probably at least half the time, we can find something in the first analysis which gives them sufficient value back that it more than covers our fees and grows their sales quite significantly. We give recommendations of and introductions to key distributors in the major markets. We give advice on product lines, product development process, and we help to develop sales materials, and we help allow people to access our database of toy companies. The gold package, which is the next one up, includes all the elements of the silver package, plus a strategic brand plan, analysis and presentation. It includes a review on our own highly SEO ranked toy review site. It tends to be a positive review, because if it's a bad review, we'll just tell you and not post the review, which we make clear to consumers, so it's very transparent. So the consumer knows it's a site featuring just cool stuff that's reviewed highly. So you either get good feedback, which will help you to improve the products, or you'll get a positive review, which, like we say, tend to rank quite highly on search engines. We'll also deliver hands-on sales support and solicitation, and get quite involved with your sales pitches, lead those sales pitches often, and we'll do a quick consumer playtesting session to review your products and to make some kind of top-line recommendations. At this point, that's a quick thing, so we can't go that deep within this package, but in the platinum package, which is next, basically you get everything that's in the silver and gold packages, plus we'll promote your company and your products to our social media following and email subscribers, which reaches more than 13,000 people in the toy business. If you think you just need one customer to buy to add up to quite a lot, then 13,000 people can have quite an influence. We're not looking at kind of a Instagram, fashion influencers who might have millions of people following them. This is B2B, so 13,000 gives you significant access to the people that matter in the toy and game business. We'll also feature an article on our Toy Industry Journal website, which I'll tell you more about in a minute. And we'll do more of a deep dive consumer research session and give you kind of in-depth presentation Like we say, we've never done this and not found out something quite fundamental that the client or ourselves didn't know before. We'll do face-to-face sales meetings on your behalf at key toy trade shows or at previews, and we'll also introduce your company to toy trade press contacts around the world. The toy trade press is sometimes undervalued. It does work. It takes time and consistency. It's not something to do once, but it's often undervalued, and we often help people with that in different countries around the world. Costs. Okay, so it's a professional consultancy service, so it's not for everyone. It's not cheap. From your side, you need to feel like we're going to add enough value to give you some revenue growth or profit growth opportunities that are going to be significant enough. So it doesn't work for everyone. From our side, though, actually rarely do we fail to have any impact at all. I can't think of any projects where we've had no impact at all. Sometimes the challenges are more within the company themselves and their ability or willingness to change that. So obviously we can't control that. But we quite often will find a $500,000 opportunity, or in some cases multi-million-dollar opportunity for clients. So in the end, our commitment is that we will deliver value. We'll make all best efforts to deliver value to way exceed the cost of working with us. There are some customers we work with where it was just a tough business or a tough opportunity, and we said that at the start, but they still wanted to have our help. We did help them move along, but maybe it took a while for the rewards to come, or the product died, whatever. We've remained kind of friendly and helpful, and in some cases we're still presenting their products 2 or 3 years after the service finished, just because we want to make sure that when they reflect back, or if someone asks us, that we've delivered for them, basically. So anyway, the packages, the platinum package, first, it costs £10,500. That's in British pounds, plus VAT for your UK company, and that's over a 3-month period, basically. The gold package is £7,000 and 2 months, and the silver package is £3,500 and 1 month. Now the reality is, it doesn't always split out perfectly like this. We will try and do as much as we can for you to deliver for you, and take all reasonable steps that we can. It's just that some of the parts of this take longer to arrange than others. So in the end, it's effectively like a consultancy retainer of £3,500 per month, and we can just do a lot more with you for every month extra that we can work with you, basically. So some frequently asked questions. We have these questions quite often, so I thought we may as well just cover them in advance. First question: I just need to sell more toys. Can you just sell for us? So yeah, the answer is yes. But sometimes, and like I said earlier, the reason that sales haven't grown is because the product company or the marketplace is the issue or the challenge you need to adapt, and it's not just a case of selling. So what we can definitely guarantee is, if there are some obvious underlying restraining factors, we'll help you find those first, and then yes, we will sell for you. And okay, you might think everything's fine. That's fair enough. And if you just want us to sell, that's fine also, no problem. But we'll be a lot more effective and deliver better results if we can also look at the other factors as well. Second question: can't we just pay you a commission on sales? We get asked this quite a lot. So here's the thing. Of course, it would probably be preferable in some ways, from your perspective, for us to work for you on a commission basis, because you don't pay anything out unless we deliver the sales for you. Here's the challenge with that, though. There's plenty of commission-based sales reps out there. Okay, the challenge is, though, they will focus on what is an easy sell, because they don't get paid unless they sell. If your product's kind of hard to sell or hard to place, they're going to move on. So they'll try a bit, and if it's just looking too difficult, they'll move on to the next thing, because there are thousands of product lines out there looking for distribution. The thing is, then, they're not actually going to help you solve your problem. And if you've already not managed to sell very much of your product, there might be some other factors, like I already said. So we want to help you fix the entire growth strategy so you can kind of thrive long after we finish working together. We don't just want to chase the easy sale for you. That's it, basically. Question: why haven't we listed any specific testimonials? So the client list is confidential. We sign confidentiality agreements with our clients, and the results that we've helped them to get are confidential as well. We'll be happy to give you some examples verbally if we get to that point of having a conversation about us helping you, and we can show you some past projects we've worked on. happily, but we just don't publish this out of respect for our clients. The last question, okay, so there's some risk involved in this because you have to take some upfront costs. So what guarantees will we give? Well, here's what we can guarantee. We'll use the same proven processes and methodologies that we've used in delivering hundreds of millions of dollars in revenue over our collective careers. And we can guarantee that we'll get your products and business in front of many of the right people. What we can't necessarily do, though, is guarantee they're going to buy. The reason for that is we can't control the behaviour and choices of buyers. And also, though, they have thousands of products to choose from. So the reality is it's hard to find distribution. And even if we help to make your product look better, for the pitch to be better, if we do a good selling job, sometimes people just won't buy. But what we can do is ramp up your approach, have the right conversations with the right people, and basically try and fast track you. And then the final guarantee we give is we want to make sure that you get value from working with us. So, you know what, are we going to work for you for free for 20 years because you did a month of consultancy with us once? Probably not. Let's be realistic. But if you work with us and for whatever reason the project doesn't get to where we all want it to get to, we will proactively try and identify other opportunities over time for you and do our best to deliver back sufficient value for your investment in our services, basically. I guess one thing that we should highlight, so basically here we are with that face that's perfect for radio again. Steve Rees, myself, I'm the primary resource running each project. Okay, we have help on an administrative level. We work with some kind of freelancers and consultants around the world, but basically I will primarily work on each project and lead it and run it. And what this means is you can get board level insights if you need it, along with like the real nitty gritty of practical usable stuff like quotation, supplier checklist forms, whatever it is. The challenge is, though, therefore, that there is limited capacity. It's only so many times in the day, and there's also only so much headspace in my mind. So normally, we work with no more than 3 clients on the Toyco Growth Booster at a time. And we're often fully subscribed. So sometimes people will have to wait a couple of months until we're free to work with them. You know, bear in mind there's more than 20,000 toy companies in the world, and if you included anybody out there who's interested in the toy business, you know, media companies, retailers, you're probably looking at 100,000 plus organizations. So like I say, we're often oversubscribed. So please, if there's a particular period of time you would need our help, please try and book in advance, and we'll do our best to ensure availability. We'll also tell you if we think we can't help. Basically, because our commitment is to help you deliver actual results, I don't want to be having us have to do that for 20 years. So if it looks like we're not going to be able to help, we'll also tell you that as much as we possibly can. And if you think we might be able to, but it's hard to say, then we'll also be upfront with you about that as well, and then we can decide together. So yeah, please do book in advance, especially around the toy trade shows. We tend to get very booked up. Quite often people will contact us in, say, late December and say, can you represent our stuff at the toy trade shows? The reality is that's so late for us to actually arrange meetings for you. We're probably seeing a lot of the right people anyway, but it normally works best if you get in touch like September, October, and then we can make sure we kind of got capacity and we can actually plan properly. You know what, it might only be a month and a month worth of costs if it starts in like late December, but the sort of the opportunity cost of what we can deliver for you potentially is high as well. So please do get in touch early if you'd like to work with us. So just a final attempt to both show you our credentials but also help and give some value back to anyone who's bothered to listen to me droning on for all this time so far. So please check out our credentials, and hopefully you'll find some insightful analysis and information and news on the toy and games business. So 3 websites we have. The first one is toyindustryjournal.com. This is our toy industry blog where we cover topics from across the toy industry basically. So please feel free to check that out. There's a newsletter you can sign up to, and then we'll notify you whenever we post a new article. Kidsbrandinsight.com is our company website, and to be honest, drastically in need of a graphic refresh, but we're generally too busy helping our clients to worry too much about about that, so it does need an upgrade. But anyway, the information's there, so if you want to know more about us, go to About. If you want to know more about services, go to Services. For Toyco Growth Booster, I should just say, it's got rather an elongated URL. Let me just find it. Where are we at? As you can see in the bottom there. So rather than me read that out, just type in Toyco Growth Booster in Google and you'll find it. So going back. The third site is boardgamebiz.com. So I spent a lot of time in toys and a lot of time in board games, which is normally seen as a kind of a category within toys. So we found that our audience wanted more specialist analysis on board games business specifically. So we launched boardgamebiz.com recently. Whereas Toy Industry Journal's been going for years, there's lots of articles you can flick back on. Lots of information. Board Game Biz is a bit newer, but we are populating it more. So yeah, if you want to find out more about the business, more about the trade in general, or more about our services, or where we come from, please feel free to visit those sites. So that's it. So if you want to discuss your needs or sign up for the Toyco Growth Booster, you can email me directly. It's steve@kidsbrandinsight.com. That's steve@kidsbrandinsight.com. Or you can click on the URL there, which I'll also put in the description on YouTube. And that's all for now. So thanks a lot for listening. We hope we can help you either as your clients, but also as a good source of information and analysis on the toy business. Feel free to go to our website, sign up for the newsletters, and if we can help you under our consultancy services, then please get in touch. Thanks so much, and bye now.